In the last few hours, there's been a massive missile and drone attack on Kyiv. Now, most of these Russian missiles get shot down by Ukraine's air defenses, especially around Kyiv, because there are Patriot missile batteries around Kyiv. But in this instance, at least one missile got through. At least 50 people have been injured, some of them children. At least one person has died. And we'll know more in the morning when it's light out in Kyiv. But unfortunately, this sounds like a destructive attack that may have been especially targeted towards civilians inside the capital city.
David, thank you so much for that detailed breakdown. And as we further discuss the latest developments, we do have the very latest from President Donald Trump on this Wednesday as he slams Zelensky's Crimea position as the UK hosts those Ukraine talks. But again, we just learned that actually was canceled at the last minute. You see the quote there on your screen as the viewers do as well. It says, quote, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is boasting on the front page of the Wall Street Journal that Ukraine will not legally recognize the occupation of Crimea. There's nothing to talk about here. This statement is very harmful to the peace negotiations with Russia, and that Crimea was lost years ago under the auspices of President Barack Hussein Obama, and it is not even a point of discussion. Let's break this down because obviously President Donald Trump is wanting peace. He's been demanding peace between Russia and Ukraine. If we're being honest, he said that this wouldn't even be an issue if he was president during the Biden-Harris administration. David, what does this say about the latest of those ceasefire discussions?
Well, there's a lot of back and forth here. And obviously, the Trump administration is pressuring Zelensky to make some concessions, especially over territory. And they're focusing right now on Crimea. Notably, of the 5 provinces where Russia has taken territory in Ukraine, Crimea is the one that they control completely. The other 4, they only control parts of them. So that may be why they're focusing on Crimea. I think President Zelensky has suggested, although he hasn't said it openly, that he is willing to make some concessions on territory, but he needs to get concessions back from Russia. And it's not clear what Russia is conceding here, because the idea is that they would keep all of the territory that they currently control. And also, Zelensky has always wanted a security guarantee from the U.S. and from the other NATO allies. Why is that? That's because they don't actually trust that even if they reach a deal with Russia that includes concessions of Ukrainian territory, that Putin won't later break that deal. So there needs to be consequences if Putin breaks that deal. Also, there's some talk of relieving sanctions on Russia. That's also a problem for Ukraine, because that means Russia can then even rebuild its army even stronger so that it can do the next wave of attack and invasion in Ukraine.
David, for many people, as they heard you say that statement, will Russia actually concede? I think that hit the nail on the head as people are closely looking at the ceasefire talks and what that looks like, because Russia is not backing down. Russian President Vladimir Putin says until he gets the demands that he wants met, he will not. And as you just further explained with these airstrikes that are happening in real time on this Wednesday in Kyiv, for many people, the likelihood of a ceasefire between these two nations is slim to none.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to understand whether you can trust Putin, because he plays a little bit of a cat and mouse game. He offers up things and then he doesn't follow through on that with them. The latest thing is he said maybe he'll have a ceasefire on attacking civilian targets. But as we talked about at the beginning of this segment, he just, ordered missile attacks on Kyiv that killed civilians. And there was supposed to be a ceasefire for one day over Easter. Zelensky and Ukraine say that Russia didn't even observe that. So can they trust a guy who can't even observe a ceasefire for one of the most important holidays for both of the countries?
David, that's a great point. And as we further discuss this top headline, we just heard the very latest from President Donald Trump. We had that quote up for the viewers and yourself. Right now on your screen is the very latest from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. It says, quote, emotions have run high today, but it is good that 5 countries met to bring peace closer. Ukraine, the USA, the UK, France, and Germany. The sides expressed their views and respectfully received each other's positions. It's important that each side was not just a party participant, but contributed meaningfully. I'm noticing from both sides of this conversation as relates to Ukraine and Russia, David, that the term respect continues to be used. Obviously, each entity wants respect, but we know the saying, right? You got to give respect to get it. Obviously, the U.S. not backing down, and President Donald Trump is standing firm to his position. Will there be a way that all three parties involved can be pleased, or is that a fallacy?
There might be. I mean, all the parties are dancing around it right now. And that message from Zelensky is meant to show that there was constructive discussions and maybe there was some progress in London. Notably, Steve Witkoff is going back to Russia to see Vladimir Putin. Right now, he's on his way. And this will be his fourth meeting with Putin. So maybe we'll get out of that some further idea of what Putin is willing to do and whether he's willing to make concessions. So I think we're in a really important time right now because you get the sense from the messages and statements by President Trump and Vice President Vance that they're not willing to go much further if they don't see progress.
Former State Department official David Tafuri, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your detailed breakdown and perspective. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
And as we further discuss this,